Dealing with tragedy in western Kentucky, where two teenagers are being mourned this morning after they were shot and killed just for showing up at school. This morning, one of their classmates is in custody.
This, of course, happened at Marshall County High School in the city of Benton, just outside of Paducah, and that is where News Channel 5's Dan Kennedy is this morning. Dan, we all know just a truly terrifying day yesterday. Today, back as the investigation continues.
Yeah, pure hell and heartbreak at this school in Kentucky yesterday, and today the healing process certainly continuing, beginning here in a small town in Kentucky, town of about 4,300 people. Also continuing is that investigation, and I just spoke with Kentucky State Police. They say investigators are going to be meeting with prosecutors this morning, early this morning, to determine what new information they can release. What we learned yesterday is that two 15-year-old students walked into school and did not leave yesterday. 15-year-old Bailey Nicole Holt was killed at the scene, and 15-year-old Preston Ryan Cope died after being life flighted to Vanderbilt, both students at this school. Kentucky State Police say the suspect, who's not been identified, was armed with a handgun when he walked in and opened fire at about 7:57 yesterday morning. The first calls to 911 went out a couple minutes later, and first responders were on the scene by 8:06 in the morning. But by then, already, Holt was dead and more than a dozen other students shot. Cope was on his way to Vanderbilt.
I was just sitting in the library, and there's a big plexiglass wall right behind me, and it sounded like there was a big fight. It sounded like there was a fight. Someone was hitting on the window. I took out my headphones and turned around, and everyone was just broken up. They were running. I saw the flashes from the gunshots, and by that time I was just running.
The first deputy from the Marshall County Sheriff's Department who arrived on scene was able to take that 15-year-old suspect into custody, where this morning he's facing charges of murder and attempted murder, because in addition to those students who were shot and killed, there were many others who were shot and injured this morning, still recovering at the hospital. And that's where we find News Channel 5's Sophie Nielsen-Colding at Vanderbilt back in Nashville. And Sophie, that's the nearest level 1 trauma center to this area.
Yes, and they were prepared to deal with that many patients coming in at once. The severity, they often see gunshot victims, but this is the first time Vanderbilt has treated patients from a school shooting. So while they were prepared with staffing, it's tough to be prepared emotionally to deal with something like that. Something like 6 teenagers ages 14 to 18 that were brought here to Vanderbilt University Medical Center yesterday. Unfortunately, one of them did not make it. 15-year-old Preston Ryan Cope was pronounced dead here yesterday. The other 2 had been shot in the head, and we know that one was shot in the torso. We know that 17-year-old Daniel Austin was shot in the arm. His brother says another student and a teacher put Austin in a car and took him to a local hospital, and then he was airlifted to Vanderbilt. Now, even though the remaining 5 students are expected to survive, it's not going to be an easy road for them.
When this happens to you, everything shuts down, and it's going to take a long time to heal, both physically and mentally, from these kind of issues for these kids.
It's going to be difficult for a lot of these teenagers who are already sedated by the time they arrived here at Vanderbilt University Medical Center, so certainly a long road to recovery for them. Live at Vanderbilt University Medical Center, Sophie Nielsen-Colding, News Channel 5.